Hello and welcome back to another episode of whatever this is. Terry Scott's Craft Hour or illustration. My name is Terry Scott and I'm an illustrator and an art teacher. And today I'm going to show you how to make a little booklet out of using a pamphlet stitch. So the crafts that you'll need, or the supplies that you'll need, are a sheet of colored paper. So it honestly could be any size you want it to be, but I'm going to stick with a smaller size, but you want all of your papers to be close to the same size. So I'm going to pick a colored sheet of paper. I found this pink construction paper. That'll be my cover. And then, I know this is really loud. So this will be my cover. And then I picked out about five sheets of just regular white paper that you can find in your printer, so copier paper. So I'm going to use these as my inside pages. So, and you can use as many pages in your book as you want, but I'm just going to do 5 for now. So what you're going to do first is you are going to place your cover in front of you horizontally, and you're going to fold the left side towards the right side. So I'm going to fold it in half, like this. Okay, so that's your cover. So you're going to put that to the side. And then individually, one at a time, you're going to fold your inside pages the exact same way that you folded your cover. That's why I only did 5, because I don't want to like fold a million sheets of paper. I mean, you can. So I'm just going to fold them individually, okay? So, I mean, you can, if you wanted to, you can fold the entire stack, but I want you to separate each of the sheets of paper from each other. Because that's an important step. So I'm going to, to make it easier, I'm going to fold each individual page in half. And this is something that whenever I teach, pretty much any class I teach, I have my students do this project, because it's always good to have some type of like sketchbook or journal when you're in an art class, for definitely. Because it's a good place to jot down your ideas and like brainstorm and put up whatever you want in your sketchbook. Because your sketchbook's kind of like a diary, but for drawing and art. All right, so all of my pages are folded individually. So I have my white pages stacked on top of each other. So now I'm going to take my cover, still folded, and I'm going to turn it over so it's horizontal. And this is the spine, right? This is where the paper is folded. So I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to make a little dot on the spine, like about in the center. You don't have to make it exact. Just kind of eyeball it. So I made a little mark with my pencil in the center of the spine. And then about like a thumb length from each edge, the top and bottom, I'm going to make another mark. So one mark at the bottom, and then one mark at the top. So it'll look like this. All right, and then, so you're also going to need some yarn, a hole puncher, an optional tape. You don't need tape, but if you might need it. So I have my hole puncher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the spine where the mark is between the circle part of the hole puncher and the bottom. I'm going to place that circular bit on top of the hole, but not all the way through. You want to just put it halfway on the spine and punch a hole, because you want it to look like a little half circle when you cut it, like this. That way when you open it, it makes a complete circle. So don't cut a hole, don't poke a hole here. Like, don't stick the whole thing through and poke a hole in the center, because that's not really going to work. It's easier and it's better to do it halfway on the spine. and then you open it and it makes a circle. So you're going to do that with the other 2 holes. Just put it on halfway, make a half circle, and then when you open it, you have 3 circles. See? So now, individually for each of my papers, my inside pages, I'm going to like line up the spine of the cover with the spine of the interior page. And where the holes are, I'm going to mark where the holes are on my interior page so I can keep them lined up, because I want to make sure all of the holes are lined up. So I have those marks here. I'm just going to go ahead and go through all my pages and add those 3 marks. And it's really important to make sure that your marks are lined up, because when you punch the holes and you stack them all together, it's a lot easier to thread the yarn through when you do the pamphlet stitch. All right. And you don't have to use just regular white paper for the interior pages. Like if you want to use different colors, you're totally welcome to do that. It doesn't have to be regular white pages. And it can also be any size. So if you have like big construction paper and big like, you know, like tabloid, that's what it's called, tabloid size paper, you can use that too. I'm just making mine a little small. You can make it any size you want. As long as you have those 3 holes on the spine, it can be any size you want. Okay, so I made all the marks on the interior pages, their spine. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the cover. So remember, half circles. Don't push the entire hole punch through and make a circle in the booklet itself. You want to make sure that you punch a half circle. That's very important. Half circle. So that when you open it, you'll have 3 circles. See? Half circle turns into full circle. Okay, so I'm going to do that with all of my pages. So I learned how to do the pamphlet stitch in my graphic design 1 class in college. We were designing these like pamphlets, and we had to do a pamphlet stitch using bookbinding thread and a needle. So for this, we're not using a needle and bookbinding thread. We're using a hole puncher and yarn. It's a lot easier that way. Okay, so all of my holes are punched. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my cover. All right, so the inside is facing up towards me. And then one at a time, I'm going to open up my interior pages and line the holes up and stack them on top of each other. So I'm going to line up these holes. So one at a time. I'm doing it this way because, you know, it's good to take your time, make sure you do it correctly. You don't want to rush and like mess it up and then get frustrated and have to do it all over again. It's always good to take your time, and this is a fun craft to just relax to, play some music, put on a cartoon, watch some nature documentaries. Okay. And make sure you can see through all of the 3 holes. Okay, they're lined up pretty well. Awesome. So this is optional if you feel like your pages won't be able to stay together as you're moving it around. You can get paper clips and put paper clips over each side, over the cover and the interior pages, just to keep them in one place so they don't slide around while you're putting the thread through. So that's optional. You can do that if you want. So now we're going to cut our yarn. So a good way to measure it, I'm going to pull out some yarn from my little ball of yarn. I want you to take the end of the yarn and kind of pull, make a little tail, so create a little tail with your yarn, about 2 inches, I would say, about a finger length. Pinch it there, and then you're going to measure from where you pinched it, with the little tail of the yarn sticking out, and you're going to measure the length of the spine once, and then you're going to measure it again twice, and then add a little extra to that. So you want your yarn to be double the length. So you want it to be like double and a half the length of your spine. And it's always best to go a little longer than you need, because you can always cut off the extra. Okay, so now I have my thread that I'm going to use to bind my book. So this is called the pamphlet stitch, used to bind pamphlets, but for this purpose we're using it to bind little books that we can use for sketchbook, or you can make a storybook out of it, or you can turn it into a journal, or you can turn it into a comic if you want. It's your book. You can do whatever you want with it. You can even make books as gifts and give it to family and friends as presents. Okay, so when you're doing the pamphlet stitch, you want to take one end of your yarn and you want to thread it through the center hole. So the inside of the book is facing up towards you. You want to slide the end of the yarn through the center hole from the inside of the book. So I'm going to pull the thread through until I have about 2 inches of yarn sticking out of the center of the book spine, right like this. And this is where the tape might come in handy. You might want to take a little tiny piece of tape and tape that little tail down, because while you're threading the yarn through it, it'll prevent the little tail from sliding all the way through. So you can always do that. You don't have to. If you want to just hold it with your finger, you can, but it's just a nice little easy tip to keep it all from falling apart. All right, so you slid your yarn through the middle hole. Now you're going to flip your book over, the back of the cover facing up towards you. So now you're going to take the end of that side of the yarn and you're going to thread it through the top hole. So remember, you're on the back of the spine. You're threading the yarn through the back, through the top hole on the back of the spine. So I'm going to pull it until it's a little taut. Don't pull it too tight. A little taut like this. This matches my nail color. Ooh. So it looks like that. Now you're going to flip your book back over again to the inside of the book. And you'll see the long thread, the long yarn sticking out from the top hole. So now you're going to take that end and you're going to thread it through the bottom hole of the book. So you're going to pass up the middle hole and go straight to the bottom hole and pull it a little taut. So you're going to have like some yarn going down the interior of your spine of your book. So now you're going to flip it over again onto the back side. And now you're going to take that end and you're going to push it through the center hole once more. So at this point, the end of your yarn might get a little fuzzy. So sometimes I like put it in my mouth and like make a point, or just roll some tape around it. Or you can even like put it on top of the hole and use a pencil to push it through. Okay, you want to put the thread through the center hole. Pull it a little taut so your spine will look like this. Now flip it over once more. So now you have two, you can remove the tape at this point. I'm going to remove the tape from the first little tail. So you'll notice that you have two ends of yarn sticking out from the center of your spine in the inside. You want to make sure that there is one piece of yarn on either side of the yarn going down the center. So I'm going to move one of these pieces of yarn underneath that middle yarn so that there's one end on each side of the central yarn, because you want to tie it in a knot to secure it down. So I'm going to take these two ends, I'm going to tie it in a knot, secure it, and I'm going to tie one more knot. I like to do double knots just to make sure it's extra secure. All right, and then I'm going to cut the extra, a little bit of the extra. Don't cut too much. You don't want to cut too close to the knot, otherwise it's going to unravel. So you can leave a little bit sticking out. And then you close your book, and you have a book. You have your own little sketchbook. And now you can decorate your cover. You can decorate it with colored pencils. I really like the look of colored pencils on top of construction paper. It looks really pretty, especially if it's dark construction paper and you use like a light colored pencil. You can use markers, you can use chalk, oil pastels, whatever you want to decorate your cover. But yeah, this is your book. You can do whatever you want with it. You can make tons of books. It's totally up to you, but this is just a fun way to, you know, a fun little way to keep all of your ideas in one place by making your own sketchbook. It's always good to have a sketchbook on hand. So yeah, that's it. So thank you for joining me once again. And yeah, I hope you make tons of books and fill them all the way and make a whole series. Well, thank you for joining me. You have a wonderful day. Bye.